You are listening to the Property Marketing Show with your hosts, Tom and Neil. The show that's all about marketing your property properly.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Property Marketing Show. My name's Neil Whitfield and I'm here with my co-host, Tom Durrant.
Hi guys.
And we're going to be bringing you another episode talking about property marketing. Today, we are honoured to have John Durrant with us, who is an incredibly well-respected property photographer. And he's going to talk to us about property photography. So, John, do you want to give us a quick intro and give us a bit of an idea as to your long and illustrious career?
Yeah. Who am I?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm John Durrant. I was an estate agent for 37 years, man and boy. So I've been involved with the property industry for over 50 years. I sold my partnership back in 2005. And started photographing for Knight Frank and Savills and people like that. I reached the point where I wanted to kill people as an estate agent, so it was probably time to move on. And then Dr. Photo, which is the company that I started, grew out of that because estate agents were sending me details of or photographs of that they had taken. And they'd want skips removed and that kind of thing. So I thought there might be a business, and so Dr. Photo came out of that experience, and something that we started to do. Gradually gave up photography and concentrated on Dr. Photo. Then, of course, Tom joined, and the rest is history. He's taken it into to a brand new level, and today we're known as Doctor DCTR. And that's the potted history. He's taken us along a really interesting journey, particularly towards new homes marketing. And that's largely where the business is headed at the moment, as well as helping estate agents with their photos. So that's me, potted history, 50 years in 2 minutes. Not bad, eh?
Very good, very good. So obviously you'll have seen a lot of change in the industry in the last 50 years. What's the biggest key changes you've seen regarding property marketing and property photography in particular?
Well, you'd have to go back to what it was like 50 years ago, and then compare that to what it's like today. 50 years ago, I would go out with a Polaroid camera, and take a photograph, and would put that onto something called a pigskin in the office, and a drum that revolved, and it would cut the pigskin out, and you'd end up with a photograph that looked like the Black Hole of Calcutta. And they weren't very good, very useful, which is why there was such a lot of copy written back in those days, because there was nothing really about the photograph that had any merit about it. Roll on 50 odd years, and now you've got high definition screens that photography can be viewed on all around the world, and so it's essential that the photographs are good quality, otherwise you're going to miss out on opportunities. So today, if you don't have a good quality photo, then chances are that you won't be appealing to the people who are your best potential buyers. Rightmove says, for example, that you can quadruple the number of inquiries that you have by having professional standard photos. That doesn't necessarily mean you need a pro to take them. You just need to know how to take your photos to professional standard. Yeah, those are the biggest difference. You've seen the industry just roll on from those days where you had this revolving drum to plain paper copiers, to litho machines. That was a laugh. We had to learn how to print litho, making plates, etc. Then to plain paper copiers, thank God, and then to color copiers, And that's largely where we are today, I guess. Color copies, a lot of agents still use those. But then, of course, you have the ability to print brochures as well to a high quality. And that would be determined largely by the actual properties that they're wanting to sell, what kind of media you use to do it. But at the bottom of it, the photo today is more important than it ever has been. You've got to get the photographs looking brilliant in order to stand out in that beauty parade that we call Rightmove and all the other portals.
And what's your definition of a good quality photo?
Well, it's got to be taken with care. It's not something you should really rush at, because the photo is going to say a lot about your brand and about the level of care that you put into the property marketing as well. So for a start, you would want the walls to be vertical. So if you look around the room where you are now, you see that all the walls are vertical and they don't lean in like that. And that's just down to the way that you hold the camera. And you'd want the exposure to be correct. And you'd want to be able to see outside of a window. If you're taking an interior photograph, you'd want to be able to look and see what's outside of the window as well. And because of the limitations of cameras, you can't do that unless you have techniques to do it, because the camera isn't capable of recording the level of contrast that you have between a bright outside and a dark inside. So you need a technique, or you need one of two techniques in order to achieve that. So you need to know what you're doing, but it's not rocket science. It's just a question of knowing what settings to use and what techniques to use, and you can do that fairly easily. And then, of course, you need the photographs to be edited in post in order to bring the best out of them, because only about 70 or 80% of the quality of the photo of the final product is down to the actual the way that you take the photo. The other 20-30% is down to the way that it's edited, to pull the best details out of that photo to make it stand out.
And is this all a learnable skill, would you say, John?
Well, I've taught several thousand estate agents over the years. I teach for Property Mark. I wrote the RICS guide to property photography as well. So it's very much in my blood. And I generally run workshops that take 2.5-3 hours and I do those online. I have visited offices as far north as Newcastle, which from Woking isn't a joke. I had to get up there and back down again, but I've done it. That's where you have large groups of people. But for anything up to 4 people at a time, a workshop is I can get you to professional standard, provided you listen. But I also support people as well going forward. It's not just a one-hit thing with me. The most important thing for me is to see the agent performing brilliantly and getting their properties noticed by potential buyers and potential sellers. Because if you've got a £60,000 kitchen, the last thing you want is somebody turning up with a camera and making it look like the lower deck of Noah's Ark after a nasty storm. So for me, it's about making that £60,000 kitchen look like a £100,000 kitchen, and pulling the absolute best out of it. Yeah, hand printed wallpaper, all that kind of. If somebody's got a particularly attractive house, then they want that to be shown in the best possible light, and I can teach people how to do that. I taught photographers how to do it. By that I mean people who specialize in other areas like portrait and that kind of stuff, and I taught other people to lots of estate agents. I taught EPC people how to do it as well, and it's something that, as I said, because it's not rocket science, it's no harder to learn really than learning to drive a car. And when you're driving a car, you do things like you put your foot on the clutch, you select the first gear, release the clutch, depress the accelerator, and the car moves forward. And it's just that kind of repetition of knowing what settings you're going to use, why you're using them, and knowing to use a tripod as well for your interior photos. So once you've got all of that kind of stuff down, then it's just easy. And of course, you end up with the photographs that you wanted, rather than the photographs that somebody has, thought that you might want or might not have wanted. So you end up with the package that you actually aimed to get. And I think sometimes it's disappointing when somebody who's a so-called professional, because not all professional photographers are that professional. Many are, and I wouldn't denigrate what they do, but some pro photographers, the work is laughable and shouldn't really be used to market property. It's just really, if you can do that and it's not going to cost, then you're going to be saving time as well. But you do need the full package. You need the editing as well to make the photograph stand out.
And how important do you think equipment is in the whole process, John? I mean, is there ever any excuse for an agent taking a property photo on an iPhone, as far as you're concerned?
That's a really interesting question, because iPhones are getting better, but they're not to the standard yet that you will get with an SLR camera. I wouldn't like to say that won't always, that will always be the case. I just wouldn't like to say that, but the iPhones or any mobile phones, the sensor, that's what I was looking for. Any mobile phone sensor is a lot smaller than the sensor that you get with an SLR camera. I would say that taking it further than that, the equipment is you don't necessarily need a very high-end SLR camera to make it work. The photos that I used to take were taken with a second-hand digital camera, second-hand Canon camera, and that was a pretty good camera. The results are achieved really more by technique and by knowing what lenses to use, and the lens is more important than the actual camera. But yeah, I wouldn't say that iPhones or other mobile phone cameras are as good yet as SLR cameras, but they could well be in a year or two.
And so John, marketing mix at the moment, with everything that's going on with COVID, and we've seen the rise in video and VR, do you think photos still play a role, as an important role?
Well, yeah, again, I think there is a place for VR and for video, but until there's a way to parade those media in the portals and on your website, so that they make sense to people. I think that still photography is going to be with us for a very long time. I can't actually see how it could be done, really. Can you imagine looking down a page of Rightmove and seeing lots of moving images? No, I don't think that would work. So, at the very least, you'd have a still image there, and then you click on it, and then that might start to move. But you would drive people crazy if they had a load of moving videos. So I think you would want really for the still image to be the best quality, so that when you're looking at your properties that you're selling, then the properties above and below that belong to other estate agents, you'd want them to stand out from those and make a much more impact. As I said, if the Rightmove, and I've got the blog link to anybody who wants it, will tell you that you can get up to 4 times the number of inquiries when the photography is that much better. And that's really powerful. In the States, they talk of property selling for 30% faster. Other people talk of property selling for much better prices. Certainly, the perception of value of a property can be improved by up to 12%, according to studies that were done in America in 2014. So the perception of value really, as I said, that really boils down to how does that property look compared to the ones above and below. And if your property looks more valuable, then you're going to get more inquiries. It really isn't, as I said, it's just so obvious that it's not true. But generally, the business of estate agency, the profession, if you like, hasn't always bought into that. The way that things have happened in the past is that people, negotiators, have been sent out with a camera and just told to take photographs, thinking that it's an easy thing to do. And of course, it is easy, but you do need to know what it is that you're trying to achieve. I've taught estate agents who've been estate agents for more, almost as long as I was an estate agent for, never been shown how to use a camera. It's a bit like a plumber not being shown how to use a spanner. It really is a fundamental need that estate agents have in order to be able to present their properties in the best possible light.
Yeah, you do see the difference between an agent who's been trained to do it professionally or used a professional photographer and a lot of the sale by vendor sort of offerings where you can tell that it is literally just the vendor going around with their phone, with taking some really, really peculiar bad angles and things like that, can't you?
Well, it's a joke, Neil, because this is probably the most valuable thing that most people own, and I'm really sure that when if they were coming to sell their car, they wouldn't, they think to clean it first. But there are an awful lot of people who give estate agents a bit of a challenge when the estate agent turns up and there's still dirty washing in the sink and there's the toothbrushes out and there's the cat litter tray on the kitchen floor. All of those things, they need to be thought about and prepared for, and vendors need skin in the game as well. To get the property ready, because they need to understand. And it's probably the agent's job to make them understand that the photography and the presentation of the property is so important. Otherwise, what you do is you end up spending 1,200 quid a month or more, whatever it is for Rightmove, trying to sell properties with photographs that are really not up to the mark. And it's just a complete waste of money and time, because they'll take longer to sell, probably won't achieve the price that they're wanting. Because they're not actually presenting themselves to an adequate standard.
Yeah, have you ever sort of walked out of a property saying it's not to the required standard for you to take the photos?
I have, yes. This was I had a call from an estate agent who hadn't used me before, and he said, "John," he said, "I'd like you to go and photograph this house tomorrow," and I said, "Fine, will it be prepared?" And he said, "Yes, they've got staff." And so I turned up, and in all honesty, it looked like it'd been burgled. There was rubbish everywhere. And I said, "Really sorry, but there's not much I can do about this." I said, "Get me back when it's been prepared and ready." And when I returned, it was beautiful. It was absolutely stunning. And the agent actually ended up selling it for 5.5 million, whereas other agents had valued it at 4.5. And I wouldn't mind betting that the other agents had actually looked at it at 4.5. And it ended up getting purchased by a rather well-known pop star. And I think that he wouldn't have bought that property if I photographed it the first time with the level of presentation that he had. I think it would have been, so it's just a waste of time. Mm-hmm. And also probably a waste of the client's money if they're not made to realise. There was this television program years ago by a man called Andrew Winter, and it was called Selling Houses. And he would turn up at a house and he would say, "Oh, I can see you've got motorcycle parts all over the kitchen, and there's a full-size train set in the master bedroom. Do you think these your house has been on the market for a year? Do you think these things are helping you to sell the property?" And they would say, "Oh, well, no, probably not." And then he would say, "And what has your estate agent said to you about that?" And of course, then they would be much more motivated, and they would say, "Our estate agent didn't say anything to us about it." It was so now it's all the estate agent's fault. And they want the same price as the house that's next door, that's in pristine condition. So then he would get the estate agent in, and he would say, "Well, you've had this house on the market for a year. Why hasn't it sold?" And they'll say, "Well, there's motorcycle parts all over the kitchen. There's garden hasn't been touched for a year. There's a full-size train set in the master bedroom, Black & Decker workbench in the cloakroom. It really is very untidy." And then he would say, "And what have you said to the client about that?" And of course, the estate agent looked like a complete idiot, because he's trying to sell that house for all that time, knowing that that's the issue. It's a bit like the little boy who tells the emperor he's got no clothes. You need to take control of that situation, because otherwise you're wasting your money. You might as well take it down to William Hill and put it on an outsider and just hope for the best. Because you've got no chance at all of getting the same price as the house that's next door, not unless the market's going up by 10% a month. And so it's just a complete waste of time. It's a combination of everything. You've got to get the vendor on board. You've got to explain why you're doing it. And then you've got to take really good photographs, and you've got to get them optimized so that they look the best that they possibly can. And that's really the role that photography has to play, because it's a first impression that everybody has of the houses that they've got to sell.
That's great.
Awesome. And so Dad, John, what do you think the future looks like then for photos, property photos?
I think the future is golden for property photography. It's going to, I think we've established that that it's, all the time that there are portals, all the time that we have social media, for example, they are all going to rely on photography actually attracting the initial interest in properties. For social media, for instance, we have, day to dusk imagery, but that can be really powerful. It will make a house stand out from, on the page or on the screen. And I think that, I think that photography is going to be really important. It's going to continue to improve as at the moment, you can say that probably only about 50 or 60% of agents are taking photographs to what I would call an adequate standard. As I say, you only have to look through the portals to see that. So the only issue really is how to stay at the cutting edge. So as more agents, I've been evangelizing for probably the last 15 years about why photography is important. And I think a lot of people have listened. We certainly got a lot of customers who've listened, and they've come to us to help them. But as everybody gets good at it, when the other 40-50% get good at it, then you've got to find something else to make it work as well. And I think one of the trends that I'm starting to see, it's not actually a trend yet, but it could become a trend, is lifestyle photography. And I think that lifestyle is going to be what will be happening. So you'll be taking photographs, not so much just the functional room to show what a room is like, but you'll be selling the house, the idea that people will want to live there. One of the things that Knight Frank did was they sacked a third of their photographers, and they invited 2/3 of us up to Baker Street in London to tell us how to take photos, which was hilarious. But the one good thing about it was that the one good takeaway that I took from it was that it was about creating an emotion in people. And I hadn't actually looked at it in those terms before. You want to create that emotion in people that makes them want to go and see the property. And lifestyle photography, I think, will be one of the areas that will help you to achieve that, or help agents to achieve that. So I think it's certainly one of the things that the agents who want to stay ahead of the game should be looking at and picking up on. And of course, I teach that as well. I can tell agents how to take really good lifestyle photos. Things like, dressing a garden table so that it could be for a party, so you'd have a champagne bucket and some wine glasses, or it could be for a family, so you'd have a jug of orange and some plastic, colourful glasses, that kind of thing, with a nice blurry garden in the background. It's about making people want to live there, and that's the opportunity that really good photography and care and imagination. Those things are going to be presented. But of course, if you're in a desperate hurry to get a property onto the market, then I think you're missing those opportunities. And I think you're also missing the opportunity to build your brand. It's your brand is important. Knight Frank realized this years ago because they got vendors to pay for the photos. And of course, it's Knight Frank's brand that has benefited from that. But most agents don't actually see the photos as being that important, or say more agents are seeing it, but a lot of agents still don't see it, to the extent that it wasn't so long ago down in the New Forest, I was teaching somebody to take photos, and the estate agency on the other side of the road, their office, their window had photographs that had clearly been in there for months because they're all curled up and looked horrible. And you think, well, what is the point in trying to sell properties with photographs and imagery that looks like that? Did they think that people aren't affected by that? I mean, if you get Kellogg's cornflakes come in brightly coloured boxes, they don't come in brown paper bags for a reason. And the houses shouldn't come, be made to look like that either. Houses are much more important than Kellogg's cornflakes. Not as Kellogg's cornflakes brand, because that's worth many millions, but individual boxes of Kellogg's cornflakes.
Yes. There's the other things you see, like properties being advertised in July with snow on the ground on the photos, which is pretty inexcusable.
Yeah, I haven't seen so much of that recently, but I mean, we have removed snow from people's photographs. We've removed Christmas trees from their photos to save them having to go back, which is all very good, a sustainability point of view, because they don't have to go back. It takes us a bit of time to do, but it means that the client doesn't have to be bothered again with the photographer going back. So that's all possible. We can do that. We can take out furniture, or horrible old furniture, and put in nice modern furniture, to show the potential that a room has. Of course, you have to put a little note saying that this is showing how the room could be rather than how it is. We can always tell people how to address that in their copy. So what's possible is there's loads more potential. In fact, to the extent that I almost regret not being an estate agent again, because I can see so much potential in what we can do in terms of making the photos stand out, and making houses much more appealing and much more compelling than we were able to do when I was taking photos with a Polaroid camera. I just wish that I lived 50 years later, really. Then I wouldn't be 70, of course. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
And do you see anything that the likes of developers and the new homes market, do you see anything that they're doing well that potentially estate agents can pick up on, or vice versa?
Developers, people, the very big developers will dress a property to a high standard, so that when they open show house, people will walk around and they'll be able to imagine themselves living there. They'll do all kinds of tricks like taking doors off, so you can walk around without, knocking yourself into a door and create this feeling of extra space. There are all kinds of developers, ranging from the very big, the Barclay Homes of this world, to the very small, the individual guys that are just building 1 or 2 properties a year. And there are a lot of those smaller developers who think in terms of building a fantastic property, but not necessarily knowing that marketing plays an important part in achieving the best possible price for the property. I think if estate agents wanted a guide as to how they should be presenting their homes, then they probably wouldn't do them a lot of harm to look at the very big agents and how their properties are photographed, and ask themselves, clearly, would this make a difference? Why is it that Barclay Homes uses best quality imagery? We work for Barclay Homes, by the way. Why is it that Barclay Homes uses best quality imagery, and we're not? What is it that, why would they do that? Why would they spend the money on making their property stand out in the way that they do? And it's clear that, they would want to present their properties in the best possible light. That's all they have to do and also agents, if they want to know whether their photos are up to standard, just look through House and Homes magazines and look at the photos in there and just compare what they're doing with those. Ask yourself, why is it that those photos are so much better than yours? It's only technique. That's all it is. It's there's no magic to it. You don't need a fantastic camera to take fantastic photos. You just need technique and care and heart. If you've got those things, then you're going to be there. If you don't care, then you're not going to achieve it.
Oh, thanks very much, John. It's been you talk of a golden future. I think it's been a golden half hour. We've learned a heck of a lot. And I really liked how you summarized care, technique, and heart. I think that summarizes everything that you've done in the last 50 years for the industry as well. So thanks a lot for your time. We've learned a lot for sure. And
Definitely.
Hopefully our listeners have too.
That's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, John. Cool. Well,
I just want to say before you go away, I said, I think you're brilliant too.
Oh.
Thanks. Yeah. Share the love. Share the love. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot. It's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from Neil.
Goodbye.
And we look forward to our next session.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks, John.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Property Marketing Show. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. See you next time.